Good Wednesday afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to a brand new edition of the MEAC More here on the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. I am HBCU Sports contributing writer and MEAC More host, Chris Stevens. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. Me, I'm actually under the weather, so I apologize if I look terrible because I feel terrible. I got real sick yesterday, just returning to the land of the living this morning. I woke up this morning, was like, am I going to do MEAC More? And I thought about it and I felt like, okay, I feel all right. So let's do it. All right. So we're here today. We got a lot to discuss. So without further ado, let's get to these paid and advertisements. This edition of the MEAC and More is sponsored by Rock Solid Contracting and Development. Rock Solid Contracting and Development handles area construction, demolition, and remediation needs based out of Wilmington, Delaware. If you need something built, they can build it, probably a house. If you need a house torn down or a building torn down, they can tear it down too. And all the other good construction and infrastructure stuff that needs to be done. And of course, Rock Solid Contracting and Development is owned and operated by an HBCU graduate, Norman Oliver of Delaware State. And I thank Norm every week for generously sponsoring this program. Okay. Also, as for the stuff that I do outside of HBCU sports, I have this lovely thing called the Overnight Scenario. It is a after hours podcast where I talk about all things dating, romance, all the good after hours stuff. You can go to either one of these links. Actually, it's the same link. I'm just going to put one on Facebook. Okay. And one up on the YouTube. You can go to the Patreon and subscribe there. You can get all the good stuff that I do outside of HBCU sports, my writing for $1 a month, as well as that podcast. Also, I have a music podcast called On the Groove Line, which is all things old school R&B, hip hop, jazz, funk, EDM, all of that good stuff. I recently had Pieces of a Dream on the show. We had a really wonderful time, talking to Kurt Harmon and Tony Watson Jr. about all things Pieces of a Dream, one of the best jazz fusion bands still working today. And you can check that out, by going to this link on the Groove Line. And you can subscribe. I'm about 15 subscribers away from 500. So the closer I get to 500, the more chances I get to make money off of On the Groove Line. So you guys can give me a sub there. I greatly appreciate it. Last but certainly not least, I have a book for sale. Yes, it is called A Widower's Gift. It is a Christmas romance. It's about a widowed father who owns a bookstore. He meets this lady who comes back in town for Christmas. She hates the town they live in, but they meet, they vibe, and they have a good time. So you guys can buy that book at this link here. And if you go back through the HBCU sports videos, you'll notice that Ken Rashad read a passage from the book during our 12-hour podathon on New Year's Eve. So if you like shenanigans, you'll like what Ken Rashad read about that book. But if you want to read it for yourself, here's the link. Okay. All right. So now that we've gotten all the advertisements out of the way, let's get down to business. And business this week is the fact that UMES on the men's and women's side are no longer unbeaten in MEAC basketball play. The Eastern Shore men have lost 2 in a row. They lost 65-57 at Delaware State on Saturday, and they lost 65-63 at North Carolina Central on Monday. So not only did Maryland Eastern Shore's men fall completely out of first place, they fell out of the top 2. Because let's look at the MEAC standings if you could. That's not it. These are the MEAC standings. We have North Carolina Central ahead of Morgan State. Central is 4-1. Morgan State is 5-2. Eastern Shore is 4-2. South Carolina State is 3-2. Surprisingly, in the middle of the pack, Howard 4-3 and Norfolk State at 4-3. Delaware State, their first MEAC win over UMES, has them a half a game out of the cellar at 1-5, and Coppin State is 1-6. So, to look at it like this, nobody in the MEAC was going to go unbeaten this year. This is a league that is just bunched too close together for anybody to really, separate one from the other. And I think what we've learned about UMES, UMES is still going to be a factor in this race, in the men's race, make no mistake about it. But what Lavelle Moten has been able to do in restocking North Carolina Central is a credit to his recruiting, a credit to his coaching, or a credit to the program and the culture that he has built. And I will always say it is a sin and a shame that Lavelle Moten never got a chance to move up. And I get it. He's a guy that we love to have in the HBCU space because he is an HBCU guy. I mean, he is still among the all-time leading scorers in North Carolina Central men's basketball. He is probably the greatest coach that program has had outside of John McClendon and Greg Jackson. That's a hell of a top three when you think about it. McClendon, the godfather of modern basketball, Greg Jackson, a really, really good coach. He coached Delaware State while I was a student there, but he made his name in North Carolina Central. And LaVelle Moton. That's a pretty good big three for men's basketball. But when you think about what LaVelle Moton, not just the basketball, but the fact that the man knows how to work the room. The man knows how to be approachable. The man knows how to be charismatic. The man knows how to be everything that a basketball coach needs to be if he's going to be the front porch guy of your university. Because Central has two great front porch guys, Trey Oliver and LaVelle Moton. What do you think about it? LaVelle Moton, this is a dude who is close friends with New Edition, because people forget he was born in Boston. So he knows, he literally he spent the first 12, 13 years of his life in Boston. So he knows Michael Bivens. He knows Ralph Tresvant. He knows Ricky Bell and Ron DeVoe and Bobby Brown. And by default, Johnny Gill. Johnny Gill's from DC, but the original members of New Edition are all from Boston. So LaVelle Moton can literally count those guys as friends, and they count him as a friend. I mean, he literally, he's always doing something. I mean, he's got, foundational work, philanthropical work, where he's working with, single mothers and, the underserved communities in Raleigh and Durham. LaVelle Moton is what you would want, not just as a basketball coach, but as a community leader. And I feel like that some PWI, a lot of them, honestly, just missed the boat on LaVelle Moton. And it will always be a thorn in my side. And granted, he's going to go down as one of the greatest HBCU basketball coaches to ever do it. We all in agreement on that. But I would have liked to have seen one of these Conference USAs, these A10s, is the American Conference still a thing? I don't even know if the American Conference is still a thing. But like a Big South or an OVC, or even even a struggling Big Ten could have benefited from LaVelle Moton. But it just never happened. And granted, it's not like LaVelle Moton is an old man. He's 52 years old. It's not like, he's just too long in the tooth. So, he could still get that opportunity. But it probably should have come a lot earlier. And what he's been able to do to get Central back in the MEAC race this year is just a testament to what he does. This is what LaVelle Moton does. He picks the right guys for his system. He coaches them up. He uses his charisma, his life story, and his basketball know-how to create a winner. And right now, North Carolina Central is the winner right now. They're top in the MEAC right now. All that could change in a little bit, but it's good to see Central back in first place, and we get to talk about LaVelle Moton, which we should do a lot more of, to be honest with you. Shouts out to WSSU Ram Nation checking in. One of Moton's guys came from UMES. Another testament of how tough that job is. Also, if Moton had moved on, Cleo would probably be at Central. And Cleo probably should have gone to WSSU, but he went to that school in Maroon. So, yeah. And Soldier Rag with a great point. Never count out Moton during February and March. Never. Never. Just an incredibly, he's a coach's coach. All the other stuff is just, stuff that you add on to it. The fact that he's able to get out to the Indian community and be a community presence. The fact that he's able to, rub elbows with stars and different things of that nature and have people know, everybody know, hey, that's Coach Moton from North Carolina Central. That means a lot. Winning matters more than anything else, but when you have a guy who's winning and has a personality, you print money. And that's probably why North Carolina Central has been able to keep him so long, because they can pay him enough. So, shout out to them Eagles. Shout out to LaVelle Moton. Wonderful job out of him so far. Still got a third of the MEAC schedule. Well, not a third, about half of the MEAC schedule. Yeah, for most schools, it's probably still a third because of that snowstorm. And hopefully that was the last we see of snow this winter. I know my Carolina friends, my Georgia friends, I know y'all, Tennessee, I know y'all tired of this crap. Shout out to Alabama. Mississippi, Florida, and Louisiana as well, because some they got hit too. Weirdest winter ever, y'all. Weirdest winter ever. Okay, now we move on to the women's side of things, and a little bit of surprise. Well, it's not really a surprise who's in first place right now. It's Howard. Howard is 6-1. Eastern Shore lost their first MEAC game to North Carolina Central on Monday. They're 5-1. Norfolk State right behind them at 5-2. Coppin State 3-4. South Carolina State 2-3. Morgan State 2-5. Central 1-4. Delaware State 1-5. UMES, I still think their women's team is going to be a factor, but I think Howard, now that they're back in first place, they're not going to let go. I think the loss that they suffered at UMES kind of woke them up a little bit. Like, I'm quite sure Ty Grace said to her girls, like, okay, now, y'all see that this conference is tough. Yes, we have a talented team. Yes, we went into Providence and beat Providence. Yes, we went to Cincinnati and beat Cincinnati, but we still got to take care of business in MEAC play. And that's what they've been doing since they lost to UMES, buddy. Like, they literally have just been winning games that the way that we expected Howard women's basketball to win games this year. They have an incredible front court. Niall Miller, Zanaya Thomas. They have great guard play. And they're the most talented team in the MEAC on the women's side. And they're starting to play like it now. I mean, they were playing like it before. I don't want to say that UMES caught them sleeping, but that's probably amounts to what it was that North Carolina's that UMES caught Howard sleeping. Not going to happen again. Probably not going to happen again. So you look at let's look at the MEAC women's standings again, just for argument's sake. Sorry, guys. Don't you hate when your computer wants to be a jerk? Why won't it? Oh, this is friends. This is what happens. All right, there we go. All right, yeah. So there you have it. There's one game separating three teams right now. So the MEAC race is far from decided, but I think what you see is probably going to be the top three throughout the season, in that order, I believe. What I am interested in seeing is if Coppin State can kind of pull away from South Carolina State and secure that 4th seed, because it feels like this has been the top four in the MEAC the last couple of years: Howard, Eastern Shore, Norfolk State, Coppin State. Credit to South Carolina State, because as WSSU Ram Nation pointed out in a comment on a video I did a while back, is that South Carolina State really ain't a basketball school. Football is their thing. But the fact that they've been able to be at least partially competitive from a basketball standpoint is huge for them. It's huge for them. But I do think that Central beating UMES was the biggest surprise, because they needed an incredible performance from Anaya Finger to do it. And doesn't get much more incredible than 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 steals. That's what you call being all over the court. That's what you call being a terror, a presence, being omniscient, if you will. And when you have players that can go off like that on a given night, that's the beauty of basketball. Because I always say in football, you need 30 or 40 good people to be competitive, at least. Basketball, you need 3 tops. You need 3 really good players and 7 or 8 others that just know their roles, like what they're supposed to do. Like, you got 3, like this. Here's the Chris Stevens basketball theory. I'm gonna share this with you guys. I'm gonna come off the side screen. The Chris Stevens basketball theory is as follows. You got 3. You got your scorer, you got your playmaker, you got your combo, somebody who can do everything in between. And all 3 can defend. Or at least 2 out of the 3 can defend. And the other 8, they need to be able to support the other 3 in those roles, but not surpass them. Like, there'll be nights when it'll be okay to surpass them. Like, if your scorer is like 1 of 9 through the first 3 quarters, and your role player that is instant offense has 12 points in about a 6 or 7 minute span, you roll with that. You let the hot hand stay hot until it's not hot anymore. If you're a defensive player is late on assignments and is picking up fouls or getting beat to the glass. You bring in that role player who is, a little fresher, a little more energized. You let them attack the glass. You let them defend the interior. You let them defend the rim. And that's how you win team basketball. I mean, you still need 11, 12 players to, fill out a roster, but there are going to be at least three that are just a little bit better than everybody else, and the other 7 or 8 or 9, they just know when to fill in the gaps. So that's my basketball theory. And I think that's what probably makes Howard. I think that's probably what Howard has had to figure out, is that they don't have 3. They have 7 or 8 girls that could start at any other MEAC institution, other than the usual starting 5 that they have right now. So that's something that, I'm sure Ty Grace has probably talked to her girls with, we over I, all of that stuff. There's no I in team, all the cliches. But Howard right now, back in first place in the MEAC on the women's side, probably not going to leave that position again this season. Probably not. So let's move on to Tennessee State and the men's basketball seedings. They're still tied for second place. They lost to Tennessee Tech on Monday, which was a shock because Tennessee Tech is near the bottom of the OVC. But as it stands right now, UT Martin leads the OVC. Tennessee State and SEMO and Morehead State are tied at 8-4. Tennessee State has beaten both of those teams head-to-head, so that's why they're ahead. Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, and Lindenwood are 8-5. So that pretty much makes up the top 5 in the OVC. And it's important to note that the top 2 teams in the OVC get automatic buys to the semifinals. So that's what Tennessee State is working towards. They're trying to stay in that top 2 because it looks like UT Martin is going to win the regular season championship. So, UMES, I'm sorry. Tennessee State needs to stay ahead of SEMO. They need to stay ahead of Edwardsville, Morehead State, and Lindenwood, and so they can have a couple of days off leading into the OVC semifinals. They'll probably, I would probably still make them a safe bet to get to the OVC semis anyway. But it would help if they were able to stay in that top 2 position and be able to, get the job done. Soldier Rag says all you need is 3 to change the program. Look at the Fab 5. Yeah. They did lose to SEMO. Oh, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for the correction. Tennessee State is 3rd. They lost to SEMO early. Okay. So, yeah. So, yes. Tennessee State has to, get back on the horse quickly, and I hope they do. But I still think they're a good bet to make the semifinals. Hopefully, if they get to the finals and win it, we could have 3 HBCUs on the men's side in the NCAA tournament. That would be great. Hold on, guys. My apologies, but like I said at the beginning of the show, I am under the weather. I feel terrible. I don't feel as bad as I did yesterday. I felt like death yesterday. I feel like, I'm alive today, but barely. So I apologize for taking that sip of water, but my throat was getting way too dry. But yes. Okay. I've tried to forget this. It didn't make any sense then. It doesn't make any sense now. Remember when UMES tried to rebrand as MDES? Sounded like a disorder of some kind, a syndrome. UMES just made more sense because, hello, it's the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Honestly, I would have preferred they stayed Maryland State. Of course, that name change happened before I was born. So, but Maryland State just sounds a lot cooler than UMES. Can you imagine Delaware State becoming UD Dover? Perish the thought. No, thank you. But I think that's something that we don't discuss enough, is that branding in university athletics and branding your university as a whole is a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge, folks, because you got to remember, we live in a society where media literacy is dead. DOA, which is why you see my support independent media thing, because Jeff Bezos just laid off the entire sports desk of the Washington Post. Biggest newspaper in the country doesn't have a sports page anymore. That's why independent media matters, folks, because, and that's why you guys need to donate to us so we can keep our organization going. While I'm doing that, be sure to donate to us. We have Cash App, $ HBCU Sports, Zelle app. Type in donate at hbcusports.com. Drop your money there. You can also donate directly through the website, hbcusports.com/donate. Independent media outlets are going to become more important as these tech bros, these hedge funds, these private equity folks just tear down journalism institutions. But yeah, coming back to the point, it's hard to brand a college institution, especially from an athletic standpoint, especially an HBCU standpoint, because you're trying to appeal to a niche audience, but you also want that niche audience to be able to spread the good gospel about your institution. Like DSU, our motto, which I love greatly, is making our mark on the world, because we have a huge transient international immigrational student body. We have kids from the Caribbean, we have kids from the motherland, Africa, and then of course we have our volleyball and tennis and equestrian folks from Europe and different places like that. So, I like that, because making our mark on the world means not only are we going out into the world and making our mark, but we have students from all across the globe. So I like what, Delaware State University making our mark on the world. That's perfect for us. But it's not that easy. And I think I'm also a person of less is more. Like, I don't think you needed to do MDES. Like, it was just like, that's so weird. But UMES, if you're going to stay Maryland Eastern Shore, that's fine. But if you're going to do this, like Soldier Rag suggests, yes, they need to go back to Maryland State University. I think Maryland State University sounds way cooler than UMES or Maryland Eastern Shore. But I get it. You're the only Division I institution on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. They're not the only institution on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. You have Washington College, you have Salisbury. But if you're a Division I school, you kind of need to sort of lay your claim. And I get why they went to the Eastern Shore, because, you are on the Eastern Shore. And I think it's so funny because Salisbury was not that good of a program for football until UMES dropped football in 1980. So that's probably why people think of UMES as like, oh, wow, the school that doesn't have football. Salisbury should be thanking UMES for that, because Maryland State was getting football players that Salisbury couldn't get. Now Salisbury is getting those players. So Salisbury University should be thanking UMES for dropping football. But I digress. Soldier Rag says, I am so angry about the Washington Post getting rid of the sports section. It literally taught me how to read. Oh, I got it. Hey, let me tell you something. It's on a smaller scale. It's very micro. But I was a part of a sports section that got eliminated. Matter of fact, I was the entire sports section. Take a trip with me. St. Mary's County, Maryland, March 31st, 2011. I will never, ever forget that day, because it was the first time I had ever been fired from a job in journalism. And I had a sense that things were getting out of hand, getting bad, because the publisher hated my guts. My coworkers loved me. My fellow staff members, the ad reps, the office manager, they all were cool with me. But the publisher and his son hated my freaking guts. So after our weekly meeting, he comes in and says, you need to come into the office. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, he was the biggest bully, but he looked across me from that room and he couldn't look me in the eyes, and he was stuttering. I guess he thought I was going to, drop. I guess he thought I was going to lay hands on him. I wasn't going to do that. He was like, we feel like we don't need the sports section anymore, and you don't want to cover anything else. So he just slid this paper across the desk to me to sign. And I knew what it was. It was like, you won't apply for unemployment upon termination. I didn't sign it. But yes, That newspaper has not had a sports section in 15 years. And I think that was more so because to get rid of me than anything else. But, Bezos just wants to get rid of everybody because he's turning everything over to AI. So that's why I'm anti-AI. Everybody's like, Chris, you're anti-AI. Damn right I am. Because it's going to take jobs from everybody. Every single body. And that includes us, the journalists, the writers, the creatives. So that's why it's important that you support independent people, independent media, independent writers, independent journalists, independent authors, movie producers and directors and writers and all of that. I digress. Yes. Absolutely. And they still getting their ass whooped by the competition too, WSSU Ram Nation. They're still getting beat. They're still getting taken to the woodshed. Well, actually, I don't know how much longer they're going to be taken to the woodshed because that competition is owned by the Washington Post. Hey. Yeah. Lawrence, I wanted to be there so bad, but this car situation is getting worse and worse, man. I did not leave the house on Sunday. I had every intention to. I wanted to go. But I did watch enough of the highlights to see that Delaware State, not just the university athletics programs, but the students in the community are serious about DSU women's wrestling. Memorial Hall was packed on Sunday, from what I could see. They bought the band out. They had the cheerleaders there. There was a whole lot of famous alumni in the building. Dr. Tony Allen was Matt's side. It was watching all the content creators upload their stuff about the DSU women's wrestling meet. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I think, again, we need to branch out in terms of the sports that we offer. I mean, hold on. Sorry. 1 second. Sorry, I had to wipe my nose real quick. Being sick sucks, in case you didn't notice. But yeah, I think we need to branch out with the things that we offer. I mean, we have some HBCUs with lacrosse, with soccer. Yes, even equestrian. I'm still very much anti-equestrian. Sorry, I am. Because it didn't help Delaware State. But, we're the CIAA as a whole is offering women's flag football as a varsity sport next year. So we need to start getting on board with things that can really diversify our student body and bring some new excitement to our athletic programs. Because there's going to be years when the football team sucks. There's going to be years when the basketball team sucks. There's going to be years when, your baseball team is better. Your softball team is better. Your lacrosse or, soccer team is good. You introduce a new sport like women's wrestling. You have a track and field star. All of this stuff. So we really need to start branching out with the things that we offer in terms of sports. Because yes, football and basketball are going to be the front porch always. That's never going to change. But you need to have a clean, healthy house in totality. When people open the front door, they need to see that the inside is just as nice as the outside. So just being able to, I wish I could have been there, but seeing what I saw, from the highlights, and DSU won both matches, by the way. Granted, they were wrestling a Division III schools, but I don't think wrestling at a Division I level versus a Division II or Division III level doesn't matter that much, especially from the women, because the women are all like equal in terms of strength. Technique might be different. Shouts out to Louise Jewett, our Kansas City, Missouri representative from the Delaware State women's wrestling team. She hit this girl from I forget what the name of the school. I know it's a Division III in Pennsylvania. She hit this girl with a German suplex, and you saw everybody jump up. Everybody. Like, oh my God, I wish I had that clip. But bro, like, Louise just got this girl around the waist and just said, ah. I said, Brock Lesnar, eat your heart out. That's how you German suplex somebody. That was so much fun, man. Yeah, and that's the thing that got me the most was that people realized that was a heavy hitting move. This wasn't just another, Greco-Roman catch can wrestling style. This was a display of power, strength, and dominance. And everybody saw it. Everybody jumped up when Louise hit that girl with the German suplex. I jumped up. I was at home. I was like, oh. But yeah, I mean, we gotta start thinking about ways to diversify our athletic offerings. We do. Yep. Makes no sense that the MEAC with that geographic footprint that we're not dominating lacrosse. Maryland, lacrosse state. Virginia, a lacrosse state. North Carolina, South Carolina, starting to become lacrosse states. Delaware, a lacrosse state, absolutely. So I think we should start thinking about lacrosse in deeper terms. I know there is there's the next league in based out of Maryland that has a different, different outlets, but we need to start thinking about lacrosse as a varsity sport across the board in the MEAC. We do. And yes, WSSU Ram Nation, it was your Rams that won the first women's flag football championship at the CIAA. Can they repeat? We will soon find out. Yep. Juliana Diaz, ranked number 10. So so it's starting to really come to grips with, we're starting to make inroads with the wrestling program in the very first year. And I hope people see that and support it. Delaware, we already are poised to crown our first high school girls wrestling champions this year as team sport. I mean, they've been doing individual girls championships for a minute, but I think this is going to be the first year they do a team championship. So there's merit to women's wrestling in Delaware and across the board, quite frankly. So just be sure to, support. And this isn't just me talking for Delaware State. Please support all of your institutional sports. Like, I know that, South Carolina State had a miracle run to the women's softball championship last year, even though unfortunately they lost their best player to Howard. Oh boy, how's that work? Your best player wins the MEAC Player of the Year and she transfers to Howard. That's a tough break. But yeah, overall, please support your institutions in their athletic programs because they need it. Our schools are not getting by just on the fact that people, wear the colors. It helps that they wear the colors, but you got to buy the colors. You got to support, do all that stuff. Oh man, yo, this is a surprise. Let me pull this up real quick. Man, I'm so late and now I'm running around as much as I can. Proud of you. So listen here, this gentleman, mind you, he worked for the competition. Remember when I said I got laid off when the sports section got closed? This was a dude I was up against, my boy Trey. But me and Trey never looked at it as a competition because we were both getting the same damn stories. It was St. Mary's County. Nobody was out scooping anybody in St. Mary's County. So we became real close. And, me and him, we used to just go to the games together and just, cut the fool. Matter of fact, I got a quick story. And Trey already knows what story I'm going to tell. So we're covering a baseball game, right? And there's this, it's a blowout. It's going to be one of those five inning games where it's like 10 runs or more. And so there was a dude on the opposing team that was a little hefty and he never made it down the first baseline the first 2 times at bat. So he's supposed to be the last batter up. He's supposed to be the last batter up. He has not run the entirety to first base the entire game. He hits a dribbler back to the pitcher, and he is huffing and puffing, and he's just yelling, F, F. And he's still out by like 15 steps, and me and Trey are sitting in the bleachers just dying, and nobody understands why we're laughing. Nobody understands why we're laughing. They should if they had been watching the whole game, but this dude didn't even try to make it down the first baseline the first 2 times. But his team was already down like 10, 11, nothing. He's like, all right, let me just pretend I'm going to hustle. Let me just pretend that I'm going to hustle for the last out of the game so the coach can say, hey, you tried your best. Yo. Oh my God. See, this is why you need sports writers, because we have good stories all the time. All the time. We have great stories, man. Please, just support, again, support your independent media, support this operation. You know, yes, sir, man. I'm putting a few of them in my memoir too. So, be prepared. I'm putting a few of them in my memoir. Yes, I am working on my journalism memoir, folks. Next year, I'll be celebrating my 25th year in journalism. So I'll be putting out a memoir detailing my time in the business. And yes, a lot of the stories that me and Trey have, a few of those are gonna make it into the book. And that's just one. And that's probably one of the funnier ones. We have some more funny ones, but that's probably the funniest one. But yes, before we get out of here today, we want to give a shout out to North Carolina A&T women's basketball center Shania Baby Shaq Clark. She achieved a huge milestone this past weekend when the Lady Aggies defeated Hampton 62-57. She scored her 1,000th career point. And not only that, she became just the third North Carolina A&T player, men's or women's, to come up with 1,000 points and 700 rebounds. And she did all this, and she's doing all of this in 4 years. This isn't her COVID year. This isn't her grad year. This is just her 4 straight years of playing, being a consistent double-double girl for the North Carolina A&T women's basketball team. And I think we undersell what 1,000 points means. High school or college. That means for at least 100 games, you got to be averaging 10 points. And mind you, there aren't that many schools there. And I tell you, in Delaware, high school basketball, we only get 20 games a year. So you have to be a scorer in Delaware to get 1,000 points on the high school side. Like, if you play as a freshman, you probably got to average like 12 or 13. If you are, if you don't play as a freshman, then you're down to 60 games. So you got to average like 16 or 17 a game to get to 1,000. So 1,000 points is impressive, man. Regardless of who it is. Regardless of who it is. And regardless of the level. Because that means you have been able to put the ball in the basket on a consistent basis. Then we add in Baby Shaq 700 rebounds. So her career averages right now are 10 and 8. That's not, at a Division I level, I don't care who you are. That's good. That's really good. And I think we've really got to, be more willing to acknowledge the milestones that these kids reach, because none of this stuff is easy. Granted, I was a terrible athlete. I played football on and off for 3 years in high school, played about a couple of varsity times. I didn't play varsity until my senior year, and I suited up for 10 games. I played in 4 for a total of about 15 minutes. So being an athlete is no joke. That's why I'm writing about this stuff now. But we really need to be, mindful of acknowledging these kids and their milestones, man, because for a lot of them, this is the last stop. This is going to be the last stop in their athletic journey. They're going to go on to be professors, teachers, business people, lawyers, doctors, chefs, hotel management. There are so many things that I think that's the beauty of being able to have somebody pay for your college if you play a sport, is that it does set you up to become a professional success, even if it's not in the sport that you were, participating in. We always going to be proud of these kids when they play, in the NFL and the NBA and the WNBA and Major League Baseball, or when they go overseas like Europe and Japan and, all these different places and, play their sports. But, the beauty of this whole college thing to me is that you get to play your sport, get an education for a reasonable price, and then you get to take that knowledge out into the world and then go and prosper and then hopefully pour it back into your institution. So that's the beauty of it for me. And hopefully you guys feel the same way. And just, once again, shouts out to Shania Baby Shaq Clark, a tremendous milestone, 1,000 points, 700 rebounds. Don't get no better than that. I know the A&T women are having a down year, but the Coastal Athletic Conference tournament has been a tournament of surprises in recent years. So I'm not at all counting out A&T. I know nothing about our men losing 2 brothers being A&T, Roy. I'm sorry, but It's a tough break, but we kind of sort of need to, we're pressed for time here because we got a lot going on here at HBCU Sports. But I mean, I think what Monty Ross has been able to do in getting that team competitive again is fair enough to talk about. Granted, it's still going to take some time, but they're not as bad as they were the last 2 years. And granted, you got to remember, A&T had a kid on in the game on the team last year that was allegedly point shaving. So you got to give Monty Ross credit for getting that team back in order after that shenanigans, after that, controversy, that scandal. But it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. But yes, that is going to do it for this edition of the MEAC and More here on the HBC Sports YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate y'all as always. Contact information for us will be in the description below. But if you would like, you can follow us on the Musty app. That's Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, you name it, we got it. Be sure to donate. HBCUsports.com/donate is the website. You can go to the Zelle app, donate at HBCUsports.com. That's what you type in there. Or you can go to Cash App, $HBCU Sports. Tomorrow, Better Than Less Than podcast from my colleague Jared Hoffman. He's going to cover all things D2 and AIA. And then, of course, Friday, we didn't have a show last week because Kim Rashad was busy taking care of legal business for us. Not legal business, but, business. But he'll be back on Friday, and we'll all be back together for HBCU Sports Live to talk about everything that has gone on in HBCU Sports. So thank you guys for riding with me on the MEAC and More. Greatly appreciate y'all. Y'all enjoy the rest of your week. I'm about to, down a couple more milliliters of this cold syrup, and hopefully I get back to normal soon. So thank you guys for watching, and until the next time we speak, y'all take care of yourselves and each other. We gone.